You're listening to 50 Pirates in 50 Days on the Sports Objective Podcast. A new era of East Carolina football is here and will begin on August 31st when Mike Houston leads the Pirates into action at NC State. Between now and then, join us for a daily trip down memory lane as we experience Pirate football through the words of the men who made those memorable moments happen. Here's your host, Bubba Rosenbaum.
As we continue our 50 Pirates in 50 Days, this is a historic moment for our podcast, right, Bubba?
Yeah, Dave, that's what we've talked to several guys from a variety of eras, but we had not talked to any yet from the Clarence Stasavich era, and we're going to be talking to quite a few former Stas players over the next few podcasts. But anyway, we're very excited now to have with us an East Carolina Hall of Famer and an Elon Hall of Famer, Jerry Tolley. Jerry, welcome into the show.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Jerry, I know you, like I said, tremendous career at East Carolina, and then you went on to great things at Elon in a variety of capacities. But let's start off, I guess, back in the late 50s, early 1960s, as far as I know you're from Edenton, if I'm not mistaken. So talk about your time there in high school and how you ended up getting to East Carolina, I guess East Carolina College at the time, to play for Coach Stas.
Well, I played at John A. Helms High School. It was a small high school. We only had about 62 in the graduating class, so no matter what sports you went out for, you always made the team because they did enough to fill the team. And we were very fortunate. When I was at Edenton, we played 4 years. We won the conference. We played in the playoffs four different times, I'll say, and we won 2 state titles. In my senior year, we were 13-0, and we had a lot of good players, and ended up 4 of us went to East Carolina on scholarships.
Jerry, back then, I don't know if you'll know this off the top of your head. How many classifications were there in high school football back then?
There were 4.
4.
And we were 2A, and then it was 3A and 4A. 1A, 2A, 3A, and 4A.
And now there's 8 classifications now, because you have 1A, 1AA, and in football you have 8 classifications. They've tried to make it as fair as they can, but hopefully they need to go to 5A. But that's a whole other podcast we could do a letter. I want to ask you, Jerry, in fact, in recent times, Edenton is your high school. They're building a little bit of a juggernaut. They're doing well again in football.
Oh, yeah. They have a great coaching staff down there, and they're in the playoffs every year. Played for the title a couple times, I think.
Jerry, talking about Edenton and winning that 2A state championship, how big of a deal was it back then in Edenton to do something like win a state title? I would imagine Edenton's small now. I would imagine it was even smaller back then. I would imagine you guys were the talk of the town back then, winning the state championship.
Oh yeah, and back then that was the only thing going on in town on Fridays, and so everybody showed up for the game. Always had a big crowds, and like I say, we went to the playoffs 4 years, and even before I was playing there, they won a couple of state titles. We had a coach there, I think he won about 8 straight conference titles. The big rivalries was Hosky and Williamston, and we played Elizabeth City. That was a big school, but they weren't in the conference.
Yeah, Edenton, still like David mentioned, still really good in football at the high school to this day. Talk about your recruitment coming out of. You mentioned you and was it 3 of your teammates or 4 of your teammates got scholarship offers to go to East Carolina out of high school. Talk about your recruitment by Coach Stasavich to come be a Pirate.
Well, it was interesting. Coach Stas did not recruit me. I went up there in 1961, and Jack Boone was the coach. And I played my freshman year under him. We were all redshirted. And then Coach Stas came in January of 1962, and I played all 3 years under Stas. But I was recruited by Jack Boone. In those days, you would visit. They'd actually work you out and run you down this field a few times and put you through some exercises and so forth.
Jerry,
So back then recruiting was a little different, huh? You didn't get wined and dined and taken around town and shown a good time. They actually wanted to work you out and make sure you were worth the scholarship.
Well, it was, but there was a little wine and dining. I did have an opportunity to visit the University of North Carolina. They didn't try me out, but they wined and dined me and everything, and then didn't offer me a scholarship. As a matter of fact, the only scholarship I was offered was to East Carolina. And in those days, it wasn't a full scholarship. I think they offered me $500, and they said, we'll get you a job in the cafeteria so you can eat free and get a little extra money. And so that's how I got there.
And you mentioned being redshirted your freshman year, or not playing your freshman year under Coach Boone. Now, back then, if I remember correctly, freshmen weren't allowed to play, correct?
Yes, freshmen were allowed to play.
Oh, they were? Okay.
We actually had 2 freshmen that actually played. But they was always thinking about the future and going to the NCAA, so they redshirted everybody.
Okay.
Jerry, I had a question for you as far as we've heard so many great things over the years about Stas. Can you talk about him as a coach? We're in the practice mode in fall camp. What was practice like in those days under Stasavich?
Well, I can remember the preseason drills during the summer. Of course, in Greenville, North Carolina, it was hot and humid, and it was hot and humid. We practiced 2 times a day. Stas was one that came from the old school, of course. He was the old school. And I remember we would have one water break, and we didn't get water. He gave us one little ice cube. That's all we had, was one little ice cube. But back then, the practice weren't quite the way they are today. If you watch practice today, all the kids are moving all the time. And back when Stas was there, they didn't have that many coaches, and a lot of times you were just standing around waiting your turn. But they were strenuous. At East Carolina, the humidity was really, really high, and I can remember dreading those 2-a-day practices.
Now, you talk about the situation with the water and Coach only letting y'all have one cup of water, and you had one ice cube. Now, what are obviously not criticizing him. He was an excellent coach. That's just how things were back then. But I would imagine you would agree that some things have improved, and we've learned a lot since then. You need to keep kids hydrated.
Yeah. Well, he was a fundamental coach. We basic tackling, blocking, running, everything. He was very strong on fundamentals, and Stas kept notes on every single practice. And so when he get ready to go a diagram for a practice, put the workout together, he had 20 years of experience that he'd go back to because he saved every single practice schedule he ever had. And of course, he came from Lenore-Ryan, where he had won a national title there.
What are your thoughts on Coach Mike Houston coming in here, with that Lenore-Ryan pedigree, taking them to a national championship game while he was there, kind of carrying on that legacy from Stas?
Well, LR has a wonderful legacy in football. As a matter of fact, I've done a little research, and Lenore-Ryan has won more conference titles than any other college in the state of North Carolina.
Wow.
They've won about 24. The next closest school was Elon with about 19, and then Duke, believe it or not, had 17. But they won a lot of theirs back in the 30s and the 40s.
40s, right.
But Houston, I followed his career. I followed him at Lenore-Ryan. He did a great job there. And then he went to the Citadel for a couple of years and did a great job there. And then at James Madison, I think he played for the national title a couple of times and won one. And I'm glad to have him down at East Carolina. I've never met him, but I followed his career very closely.
Well, I can tell you that, Jerry, that he's a no-nonsense kind of guy. And the thing I like about it is now practice, there's the word that's been used a lot for Houston's practices are the physicality. But now you're seeing that when you're talking about blocking and tackling, you don't have to worry about like we had the last few years where there was not an emphasis on tackling. You gotta practice the fundamentals, right? I mean, you're a student of the game. You play the game. If you don't practice blocking and tackling, I mean, what are you doing?
Well, you're right. You go to practice every day, and it's fundamentals, blocking and tackling. It is. You're right about that.
Bubba? Yeah, that's what, Jerry, getting back to Coach Stas, and I remember my dad Actually, before we talk more about Stas, I wanted to ask you about Coach Jack Boone, or make a comment about him. My dad's a 76 alum of East Carolina, and I know he was talking about he had Jack Boone for a class or two, and as one of his professors, and he thought very highly of Coach Boone, and then he also thought very highly of Coach Stas. He had the opportunity to cross paths with him, and then he said that back in those days, after those 15, 16 years that Stas had at LR, that was quite the coup for East Carolina to hire him.
Oh, it was. Leo Jenkins did a great job. Going back to Jack Boone, you may not know, but Jack Boone graduated from Elon, where I had my career there. And he was a great running back and a punt returner there. And early at East Carolina, he played in 2 bowl games. He played in the Elks Bowl and one others back in about the mid-'50s. Lost both of them. Both of the bowl games were played right there on College Field at East Carolina.
Oh, wow.
But he was an excellent coach, knew the fundamentals of the game and everything. But when he was there, like I said, he had 2 great years. I think he had 1 8-2 record, and that was the best record in the history of East Carolina until Stas had that 9-1 record 2 years in a row. And
that you brought up a topic that I wanted to ask you about. You were 61 to 64, so I guess the first 2 years you played at College Stadium, and then 63 and 64 you actually played at Ficklin Stadium.
Ficklin Stadium. I was there with the dedication going on
against Wake Forest and Brian Piccolo, right?
Oh yeah,
yep.
Wake Forest and Brian Piccolo. People still talk about that game. Brian Piccolo was a great fullback for Wake Forest.
What do you remember about that game?
Well, I did not play in that game. I was injured. But we had a great linebacker, Frankie Galloway, the second All-American, that first-team All-American from East Carolina. He was from Wilson, North Carolina. And I remember before the game, you know how people get excited before the game. We were there right before the game going on the field, and he went around and encouraged all of our football players to smell him. And he said, when you get on the field, I want you to smell Brian Piccolo, because when you get over, I'm going to smell like Brian Piccolo. But I'll add this, and you can cut it if you want to. He did not smell like Brian Piccolo. He smelled like bourbon, because all those fraternity boys after the game dumped bourbon all over Frank Galloway because he had done such a great job.
No, we definitely will not. Right. No, Pirate Nation will appreciate that story. But in the old College Stadium, it was located right there near Christiansbury Gym, correct? Right behind it, yes, sir. We dressed in the basement of Christiansbury, and we'd go out there every day and practice on those. We had 2 practice, or we had 1 practice field, but then we had a stadium right there too. And that's one of the things I remember seeing pictures of it, and I also remember seeing pictures of Ficklin Stadium, and you had the light poles in front of the stands. Oh yeah, you're right. Well, we thought it was the greatest stadium in the world now. I think about 13,000, and we were happy.
What do you think about being there in the inception of Ficklin Stadium? What do you think about now seeing it in the new press box being built and the continued growth of the stadium? Oh, I think it's wonderful. I've had season tickets there forever, and I bought them this year. Unfortunately, I don't get that many games, but I buy the season tickets and give them away, and I always get back for Letterman's Day, and I try to get back for homecoming. I haven't seen the new expansion in the President's Box and everything, but I understand it's really great. Yeah, it's big time. It's big time. That's awesome. I know we appreciate you buying those season tickets and doing your part to support the program, and that's something back several years ago. It doesn't seem like it's been this long, but when we sold, I guess it was right around 23,000 season tickets, and unfortunately now we're down there. We're better than where we have been the last couple of years, but we're right around 13,500. So hopefully over the next few years with some success under Coach Houston, we'll get back to where we need to be. Well, I agree. I think Mike Houston will do a great job, and I think a lot of the
Pirate fans, particularly in Eastern North Carolina, will support the team.
Now, speaking of doing a great job, you did a great job when you were a head coach at Elon. Talk about your coaching career and how you got into coaching.
Well, when I graduated from East Carolina, I was very fortunate. Coach Stasavich kept me on as a graduate assistant while I got my master's degree. And after I got my master's degree, I went to Fayetteville Senior High with a guy named Red Wilson, who's a legendary coach in the state of North Carolina. I was there 6 months, and Coach Wilson got the job at Elon as head coach, and I came here with him, and I worked for him for 10 years. He left to become head coach at Duke University and left me there. When I took the job, I was in the middle of a doctoral program, get my doctorate degree, and I had planned to get out of coaching before I was 40 years old. And like I say, Red did a great job building the program, left a great athletes there, and I coached 5 years and won 4 conference titles. Actually played in the national championship game 3 times and won 2 of them, and then retired from coaching. I was finishing up my doctorate degree, and then I worked there in development for about 6 years, and then I left and worked for a company called Laboratory Corporation of America for 12 years, retired from there, and then came back to Elon and worked another 10 years, and then actually retired in 99. No, not in 99, about 10 years ago, though.
Well, you've done a lot. I mean, what made you want to get out of coaching after such a successful tenure so quickly?
Well, I'd always said that I'd be out by age 40. And in 1974, I had a chance to leave Elon and work for another school. And I went to the president and I said, what do I need to do if I don't want to continue coaching, if I want to stay at Elon? And he said, get the doctorate degree. That was on a Friday, I remember, and on Monday I was enrolled at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro in a doctoral program.
Well,
the whole time I was coaching, I was getting my doctorate degree, and that was not an easy thing to do.
No, and nothing like going out on top. Of course, also back then, the coaching contracts weren't worth hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, I'm sure.
You're right. I tell the story that when I was elevated to head coach at Elon, they gave me $1,000 raise, and it got me up to $15,000.
Oh my goodness! Wow. And I would imagine, Elon, being FCS or 1AA if you prefer, I would imagine their head coach still now probably makes $300,000 to $400,000 at least.
I think you're right. That's what I hear.
That's insane.
But now, Jerry, when I was preparing for this interview, I noticed this was your bio on ECUPirates.com for the Hall of Fame, and it said that in 1964 that you won the E.E. Raw Award, which was for the senior athlete who best exemplified academic excellence and outstanding character. So those, your teammates and friends and the people that knew you well back in those years, and as you progress into your coaching career, may not have been all that surprised when you elected to retire from coaching and when you were pursuing your doctoral degree. So that was something that really stood out to me, and I was like, well, maybe that wasn't so surprising after all.
Well, it might not have been, but it wasn't easy. I tell people, when you're coaching football full time and you finish coaching, you finish your practice and you run and get in your car and go to Greensboro to get your doctorate degree, and you come back, and like I said, it took me 7.5 years to get that doctorate degree, and I didn't waste any time. I was going every spring, every fall, taking one course, and all during the summer.
Now, did I hear correctly? Were you the mayor of Elon at one point of the town?
Well, I'm still mayor.
You're the mayor, okay.
Yeah, I'm in my 22nd year as mayor of Elon.
Oh, wow. Now, what do your duties entail as the mayor of Elon?
Well, the mayor in the state of North Carolina, it's an important position, but we have a town manager form of government.
Right.
And the town manager runs the town. As a matter of fact, I don't even have an office in town hall. But I usually go to town hall maybe about 4 times a month, and we have 2 different meetings a month, regular meetings and things like that. But it's a wonderful thing to do, and I'll brag about our town a little bit. Since I've been mayor, we've been voted the safest town in North Carolina. We have been voted the best place to live in North Carolina, and we've been voted the 5th safest college town in the United States.
Well, that's tremendous.
So it's a great little town, and I enjoy being the mayor.
Well, we'll give you all the credit for it then as mayor
Right,
for making all that.
Now, Jerry, in addition to serving as mayor and after your coaching career, we talk about getting your doctorate degree, and then also I know on 2 different occasions you served in that fundraising capacity for the university as a whole.
Yeah.
So I know something else that you've done and done quite a bit and well is author books and articles and pertaining to different aspects of football, be it tackling drills, speed and agility, what have you. And I noticed that some of your books were even endorsed by the likes of Nick Saban and Tom Osborne, which was very impressive.
Oh, yeah. Well, I enjoyed putting those books together. After I got out of coaching, I was approached by Prentice Hall wanting me to write a football book. And they said, we'll give you $10,000 to write a football book. And I said, well, if I'm going to write the football book, I'm going to get more than $10,000. So I actually put the book together, published it myself. And to brag a little bit, it sold about 15,000 copies. And in 1986, it grossed $250,000, which is
wow.
good. Now, I say it grossed $250,000. Now, I had to pay for the printing cost, and I had to, to pay for the shipping and marketing and everything. But it was real good. And I was lucky to get all those big-time coaches to endorse the book and actually write the foreword and things like that, which made it right. But I've done 6 of those books. I've also done a couple of things for East Carolina. If you look in the football program, there's the Legend of the East Carolina Pirates, written by Jerry Tolley. So I put together a page talking about the legend of the East Carolina Pirates and how they got their name. And the last thing I'm just finishing up right now, I'm doing the history of Coach Stas's era, the first 4 years there. And I'm just finishing up. It'll end up about 100 pages. It won't be published. I'll make sure I give the archives and some people at East Carolina a copy of it. But that's been something really great to do. I was lucky, and my wife, who I was dating at the time, and my sister saved all the football clippings from the papers when I played. So I had all those articles. So it was very easy to do it from the press clippings.
Jerry, hearing all this, you make me ashamed of myself for just sitting here staring on my phone at Facebook all the time.
Well, it gives me something to do. Like this last little project with the history of the early years of the Stas area, I've probably been working on it about a year. I go a little bit up into my study and write a little bit and type a little bit and stuff like that about every day. And like I say, I'm hoping to have it finished. I think I'm going to give it to my editor in about 2 more weeks. And then I'll have all this stuff copyrighted and everything. So it'll be ready. My goal is to have it by the end of the year. And
so are you going to put out is it going to be a book about Coach Stas in 4 years?
Well, I imagine it'll be about 80 pages, but it won't be a book. I'll have it printed right here at Elon University. I'll probably make about 20 copies, and I'll probably, like I say, give one to East Carolina Athletics and give one to East Carolina Archives, and I'll give one to a few friends. If anybody wanted it, I'd send them a PDF copy of it and let them read it. But it's been fun putting that together and remember all those things.
Do you have a way, I don't know if you want to be bombarded, but do you have a way people can contact you if they want a PDF?
I don't know if I want. No, don't advertise that. No.
Okay, all right.
No problem.
Contact us, and then we'll get up with Jerry.
Oh yeah, that's right. I mean, I wouldn't mind, sending a PDF copies to a few people, but I don't think that many people would be interested in it.
I think you'd be surprised.
Well, I think my doctoral dissertation was the athletic history for men at Elon, and guess what? I've never been asked for it.
Well,
I think there's a copy in the library at Elon, and I've got a copy upstairs.
Well, Coach Stasavich is somebody that well admired at East Carolina, and I think And I think you are too. And any Pirates that aren't familiar with you, after hearing this and hearing the kind of Renaissance man you are, I think a lot of Pirates will be interested in hearing what you have to say about Coach Stas.
Well, I tell you, he was a wonderful coach, great fundamental coaches. He believed in fundamentals, and he worked you hard. There's no question about that. But he was a great leader on the sideline. He was an excellent motivator, and he just brought out the best in all the players.
And Kyle, something else we haven't even mentioned yet, at least if we did, if Jerry mentioned it, then I missed it. But I know during his time at East Carolina in 1962 that he also ran track, and then he coached track and also tennis at Elon.
Yes, I did. And I ran track at East Carolina for Odell Welburn. Of course, when you played football, they made you run track. Oh man, I was leading scorer one year, but it was very hard. I ran the 100, the 220, the 440, the mile relay, the triple jump, and the broad jump every single meet, and that was a lot to do.
Could you do it now?
Yeah.
Hey, and I tell people, I was noticing, I won't tell you what it was, but I held the record in the triple jump. I held the record in the triple jump. I was looking at something somewhere at some high school, and the girl on the team was triple jumping further than I jumped.
Wow. Wow. Hey, Bubba, who do you think will win in the race, Jerry or Terry?
I don't know. We need to set it up. No.
Yeah. Good friend of the podcast, former East Carolina wide receiver Terry Gallagher, also ran track, and
yeah, he was an excellent hurdler down in the state of Georgia.
Well, I tell you, I've always said, if you're a hurdler and play football, you're a pretty good athlete.
Yes, sir.
But that era, I know we're jumping backwards here, but when you were at East Carolina, that's what I know your final two seasons playing football for Coach Stas, those were the 9-1 records that you were alluding to earlier. And then the year after you left, the Pirates went 9-1 once again. So 27-3 over 63, 64, and 65. And all of those losses were very competitive. I mean, by like a touchdown or less, where we were literally 2 touchdowns or so from being 30-0.
Well, yeah, you're right. My roommate at East Carolina was Dave Alexander, and he should be on your list too. He was an All-American there, first-team All-American, and he was the most valuable player in the Tangerine Bowl one year. But you're right. The years I played there, we were moving up to the Southern Conference, and we got in it the following year. And the following year, when Dave Alexander was a senior, they won the conference, the Southern Conference, the first year they were eligible. And something most people don't realize, you know, the Southern Conference Football Championship trophy, you know who it's named after?
I no, we do not.
Clarence Stasavich. Yeah.
Okay, well, you knew that, Bubba. I did not. Okay.
Well, yeah.
All right. Well, Bubba, you got anything?
Stas, at one time, when he was coaching, the third winningest coach in college football behind Bear Bryant, and I forget the other one. But he's won more ball games than anybody else except for Bear Bryant and one other coach, I forget. It might have been Bobby Dodd from Georgia. But I don't know.
I knew his record over those 16 seasons or whatever at Lenore-Ryan had been something like, I don't know if it was 121, 27, and 2 or something. It was something crazy.
Well, I think he won the conference title 8 years in a row.
Wow.
And if you go to their football program today, they have the Stasavich era. It's the greatest era of football in Lenore-Ryan history.
Yep, and that's a beautiful little stadium, Moret Stadium, between the bricks, as they say.
Oh yeah.
But Kyle, did you have anything else with Jerry?
No, just wanted to tell him, Jerry, it was an honor having you on the podcast. Learned a lot about you, and like I said, you were quite the Renaissance man. You have done it all.
Well, I've enjoyed my life. It's just been really wonderful. Like I retired about 10 years ago. I'm living in a retirement village, and they do everything for you here. You don't have to do anything.
Sounds good, actually. I got a situation, Jerry, with my wife now.
Yeah. Now, Jerry, like you said, I was aware of Dave Alexander for sure from looking at East Carolina Media Guide, what they now call the Fact Book. But we would certainly love to have him on the podcast for this Pirates in 50 days, and if it works out between now and August 30th, or we'd love to have him on just a general podcast after that, whatever the case is. But certainly put us in touch with him off the air.
Well, I will. And another great one, I'm sure you heard his name, is Bill Klein. Bill Klein
Yep.
is a tailback to Stas, and he was actually the best player on our team when I was there. And of course, Alexander was something. We had a great lineman. I just found out this in doing the research for this book I put together. Ted Day and Bill Klein and Dave Bumgarner all made the All-State team in 1964. And that's when the All-State team was considered every school in the state. And I was talking to somebody, and Ted Day was captain of that team. They picked the captain of the team, of the All-State team. And guess who the other captain was? Brian Piccolo.
Wow. That's impressive.
So I thought that was pretty neat, because we'd beaten them, and then they both made All-State, and Ted and Brian were both captains of the All-State team.
I remember when I was a young child, and that's when my dad gave me a copy of Brian Piccolo's book.
Yeah. Brian Piccolo was something special.
Well, Jerry, we certainly appreciate your time. Like Kyle said, it's been tremendous hearing firsthand about your tremendous career at East Carolina, but then also afterwards in coaching and otherwise. So we really appreciate you being so generous with your time, and we'd love to have you back on the show down the road sometime.
Well, that'll be fun. And I'll tell you, when I finish this Stas era, if you'll send me your email, I'll send you a PDF copy.
Yes, sir. That would be awesome. We very much appreciate it.
Okie doke. Thanks so much,
Jerry.
fellas.
Thanks so much.
Go Pirates.
Yes, sir. Go Pirates.
That concludes this edition of 50 Pirates in 50 Days on the Sports Objective. Remember, join us daily between now and game day as we'll talk Pirate football with players from various eras. All these interviews are available exclusively on SoundCloud and our YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe and follow so you're alerted when we post new content. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, go Pirates!